Hey everyone, Mike Miller, Herald Times, joined by columnist Jeremy Price, and we're freezing. It is really cold.
I feel like I'm in the hockey penalty box here.
Yeah, it is something else. It was actually the weather kind of sucked all day, but it was about 65 degrees when we were walking in here this morning. And after that rain, storm, lightning, heavy rain, everything blew in here. It dropped the temperature considerably, about 20 degrees. It is freezing in here. We're in the visiting radio booth right now, and usually they have a little heater here underneath the table, and I was hoping that would be on, but it is not.
Much like the rest of Rutgers today, things just not working.
Things not just working, yeah. Rutgers never showed up. This was a 41-0 victory that was essentially all Indiana's from some of the earliest moments. Mike Merritt from the AP actually mentioned, was it opening kickoff? There was an unsportsmanlike penalty on Rutgers, and got no better from there. After IU's first drive of the day, a muffed punt was recovered by Rashard Fan at the 6-yard line. Moments later, it was punched into the end zone by Morgan Ellison. From there, it was all Indiana all day. And you can say I think both things here are true. Rutgers was horrible, didn't show up. But Indiana absolutely did exactly what they needed to do in a situation like this. Won this game with fine performances in essentially every facet: offense, defense, special teams. Just a very convincing, thorough win for Indiana in a game that actually absolutely required it.
Yeah, I think this was a combination of probably Rutgers, one of their worst performances of the year, and one of Indiana's best performances of the year. And I'm sure there's a little correlation between the two. But for Indiana, it comes at the right time. It's certainly the most dominating performance against a quality opponent, and frankly, a historic performance.
Yeah.
First Big Ten shutout in 24 years.
Yeah.
Which is also their second shutout of the season, which is a first in also 24 years.
Yeah.
So, this is sort of rare air for Indiana, at least defensively, for sure.
And I think it was fitting, too, to have that kind of performance on a day like this, led by the defense, which is made up of so many seniors who have been here through some of IU's worst defensive performances. And right now they're enjoying a bit of a high this year. Just the way they've kind of transformed that unit in Tom Allen's first 2 years with the program. Again, it was just a convincing top to bottom, a little bit of everything from everyone. It was no real standout today. It was really the group. And again, it seemed like a very fitting kind of performance from the defense, having everyone chip in various ways.
It was a fitting senior day performance with so many seniors on the defensive side of the ball. And I thought it was also fitting that it comes on a day where you're honoring the 1967 Big Ten champs, 1968 Rose Bowl team. And on top of that, from that team, your honorary captain today was Doug Cruzan, who, while probably better known as an offensive tackle, at least in the NFL, switched over to defense for that Rose Bowl season in 67 for Indiana, and was second-team All-American in his one season as a defensive player. So thought there was just sort of a lot of, symbolic connections and things that went on for Indiana on this afternoon.
Yeah, definitely. Offensively, got to give credit to the offensive line today. It was actually one of their better performances of the year. Created a bunch of holes and really got some tough running inside and out from Morgan Ellison and Cole Guest. Again, this was just a pretty even performance offensively when you look at both through the air and on the ground. Richard Lego, losing my hair, Richard Lego, another steady performance. Just continues to move Indiana down the field, and actually having a running game certainly helps with Ellison and Guest both going over 100 yards.
Absolutely, but Indiana established that passing game early and really took advantage of having the wind. This was a day when you had the wind with you or against you, depending on which quarter it was. That made a big difference in how your offense looked. And for Indiana to get off to a good start, take full advantage of having the wind at the outset. And then once they got the lead, they were just able to pound the ball. And as you mentioned, having Ellison and Guest really are starting to develop a nice complement to each other. Definitely. As a 1-2 punch for Indiana, sort of I call them a thunder and lightning combination. And I think Guest, is one of those guys that we've seen, and we've seen a number of these guys that has some speed, but you have to kind of figure out how to use that speed.
Yeah.
And he's starting to figure that out. He's kind of figuring out when to hit the turbo button, if you will, to hit that open hole and really just making some nice plays, whether it's catching the ball out of the backfield or taking a handoff, and just seems to have that spurt to get that extra 2, 3, 4 yards when he's looking for that first down marker.
Yeah. I think really, for me, what was maybe most impressive about the offensive performance was the rushing attack. And, in a game where the weather kind of necessitated it at times and also time and score, Rutgers knew it was coming and still couldn't stop it. It was, I think, 27 consecutive rushing plays to finish the game, and Indiana got 14 points in the process. So definitely a good sign of potentially things to come next week and maybe even beyond.
And a big part of that would be, too, that Indiana eliminated a lot of those negative plays in the rush game that it's had this year. Sometimes it was a no gain or a -1 or only a gain of 1, but there weren't a whole bunch of these 4, 5, 6, 7-yard losses for the most part. And that's and you also didn't see, I don't know if Indiana even had a holding penalty or anything.
One penalty all day.
Yeah, no chop blocks, none of that stuff. All those drive killers that Indiana's kind of been known for this season, there was none of that present today. They were just really solid, really fundamental, really sharp.
Yeah, really sharp. Saw a friend of the program, Chronic Hoosier, point out on Twitter asking what was the last time Indiana just throttled a Big Ten opponent like this? And it probably predates my time here. I'm not sure if you can recall anything off the top of your head, but it just kind of goes to show you, games like this don't always come often. But to have it come now, to have it come at the juncture of the season where Indiana currently is, it's certainly encouraging. Going to Purdue, which is showing a lot of signs of life right now at Iowa. We're shooting this as they're still playing, I believe.
Actually, just finished a few minutes
Purdue
ago.
won.
Yeah, Purdue won.
So, it's just finally, Indiana had 2 back-to-back wins early in the year, Virginia and Georgia Southern, but you're also, after that Georgia Southern game, going into Penn State, a game that, I think you kind of penciled in early on is probably going to be a loss, and it was. Right now, there's real momentum. There's 2 wins, and certainly this was in very convincing fashion, propelling this team into the all-important game next week in West Lafayette.
It does. And to go back to your previous point, our colleague at the HT, Jim Gordillo, tweeted earlier that this was the first win by 20-plus points in Big Ten play for Indiana since 2006. Mm-hmm. And then as far as the shutout goes, it was the largest shutout since Indiana beat Northwestern 42-0 in 1990. So, more rarefied air for the Hoosiers as far as that goes. And then sets up, I almost hesitate to say a winner-take-all game next week with Purdue because the way things are going, there's a decent chance that the loser gets in at 5-7. The way bowl berths are sort of starting to shape up around the country, but it does add an extra layer of drama to that game. Certainly, the winner's guaranteed a bowl berth, and where that winds up, who knows? But surely we'll make for some fun in West Lafayette.
And I think one of the really interesting things is just when you look at the last few years, obviously Indiana's been in this situation before, needing to go against Purdue, whether it's in Bloomington or West Lafayette, to extend their season. After the Wisconsin game, there was a meeting that Sunday with the team where Tom Allen brought all the seniors up to the room and basically said, hey, we got to get these guys back to the postseason. We got to do it for these guys who've been through so much at this program, some of them coming in 2013, maybe the rest coming in 2014, but just having experienced so many highs and lows. And, one thing Tom Allen pointed out was he's really not had to, point out that it's a weekly season, it's a one-game season every single week. The players just kind of know that right now. They've been in this situation before. And heading up to West Lafayette, obviously, is a situation Indiana was in 2 years ago, and they had to win 2 back-to-back road games to get into the postseason. But now, obviously, this is a situation where they need 3 in a row. This will be the 3rd going into Purdue next week. So you feel good, especially coming off of a game, again, where it was so thorough, so just convincing that Indiana is set up nicely here to at least give themselves as good of a shot as possible.
Yeah, I think one difference to note, though, is that it means something to Purdue this time, which it hasn't in the past necessarily. So, if Indiana could get a lead or establish something early, there was maybe not that certain level of competitiveness in Purdue in the past few years. This year, you're not going to find that. I mean, nobody's going to just roll over and die in this game for sure. But the other thing I noticed is you just talking to the players post-game today, they were happy with this win and happy with this performance, but inevitably, almost every question you asked, they were already turning the page to that Purdue game. They were already looking ahead to that game. They've got that circled. It's very clear in their mind what they have to do, and while they went out and took care of business today, it was take care of business today to get to that point next week. And so this is a very, very focused team at this point that knows what's on the line, and the fact that Purdue has something on the line should just add a little something extra.
Yeah. Encouraging signs abound going into this last week of the regular season. We'll see what happens. We'll be right back at it tomorrow with basketball and following all the coverage through the Thanksgiving holiday all the way up to West Lafayette, where we will be bleary-eyed and probably a little sleepy, but ready for some football on Saturday at noon at Ross-Ade. So till then, see ya.